Yo, I look the same, dog. Like, I look the same, but this is like 5, 6 years ago. And then I saw a picture of me 10, 20 years ago. I look younger now because I'm living that carefree life. All right, let's talk about Travis Kelce, who I think he lives a carefree life when he's on the football field. Looks like when he's in the club. Y'all see some of the videos of him in the club, hitting the swag surf and all that stuff? Looks carefree there as well. But he said this podcasting thing, like getting in front of the camera, chopping up wood, he said that's the hardest job in the world. Let's listen to him say it. He said, it's the hardest job in the fucking world to keep coming out with content that people want to hear. I jumped into the podcast game not knowing what the funk it was even really about or how things were going to transpire. But obviously with the Super Bowl and everything, it's just taking off. All right. So he attributes the success of the New Heights podcast, which was 11th on the podcast chart last checked, to his brother and co-host Jason, a natural storyteller with a commanding presence, as evidenced by his memorable speech, y'all remember, at the Eagles Super Bowl parade in 2018. So he said, thankfully, my brother's a hell of a storyteller and he just has them banked. My brother's really the one driving it. All right, let's talk through this. Now, is podcasting the hardest job in the funkin' world? We know it ain't. We know it's not. But what is he really trying to say right here? He's trying to say that, wow, one, this medium is full of cats, saturated. Everybody got something to say. Everybody got an opinion. Raise your hand if you got an opinion. Raise your hand if you're podcasting. Everybody out there doing it, right? So he's used to greatness. So he's saying coming up with content, not just what I feel, but what is the audience wanting to hear. That's the balancing act. Because sometimes when you're trying to create something, you're like, oh, that's dope. Oh my God, I can't wait to talk about this. And then a little voice in your head says, how many people out there thinking like you? How many people out there really want to hear that? And that's how you get caught up in mass media, because you have that conversation, a dialogue with yourself about, is this going to hit? So what happens is you keep walking down that road. Guess what you end up doing? Dallas Cowboys, LeBron James, Yankees, Dallas Cowboys. You see what I'm saying? Because you have now started to negotiate with what you think is the most interesting things, what's authentic to you. So you can get caught up in that. And look, it's not just when you're doing mass media, are you the one producing the show, right? You're the one reading the teleprompter. You're the one giving your opinion. But the structure of the show a lot of times comes from producers. But you could be a part of that process as well. Skip Bayless comes to mind. Stephen A. Smith comes to mind. So when you are that person, then how far do you go listening to that other voice? Or do you say, you know what, I'm gonna do me? And then you have independence. Now, there's a balancing act that on a major level or in the independent space that you must have. But what he's saying is for that content that people want to hear, and that's what the results are driving. The success of the show has now become the driving force. The success of the show has now grabbed the steering wheel and it's made it the hardest funkin' job. Why? Because he ain't doing exactly what he wants to do. He ain't talking about and saying exactly what he wants. And what do they say? If you find your passion in this world, you'll never work a day of your life. What's the flip of that? The converse of that? Well, if you're doing something that is your passion, but it's not necessarily exactly what you want, then you're working. And that's why this is the hardest funkin' job in the world. Y'all fault. All y'all out there who are demanding in the comments or demanding in the social pressures of, we want them to talk about this. You see these two guys together, obviously a few things just come to mind. Low-hanging fruit. Every fan wants to hear about the Eagles and the Chiefs. Every fan wants to hear about Mahomes. Every fan wants to hear about football. And then they want to hear about their brotherhood, right? So imagine the times when they want to veer off of that. Like, all right, we get that. We got y'all. We got y'all top five. Now, number 6, can we go over here? And then somebody who is in charge of the metrics of the show, right? Somebody who's in charge of the views and looking at it and putting it on social just gives back the report. And when they went to number 6, the report didn't show a tremendous amount of support. Now they're being encouraged, they're being influenced to stay away from number 6 and stick to the top 5. That's work. Because how many times I'm gonna talk about Patrick Mahomes? I see the fool all the time. He's just my quarterback and my homie. Y'all, to y'all, he's Superman. To me, he P. What up, P? Rest with his little hair and his little mohawk, whatever he got going on. Little bang or something too. He got all that. Like, he just P to him. And that's when it becomes work. Now, another thing that I thought was interesting about it is how he said his brother's a natural storyteller. And to me, those are the ones who win out here. Not the ones who regurgitate facts, not the ones who give you that opinion that you just couldn't get anywhere else, because everyone has an opinion. It's the one who can take all of that and just make it work. Cook that gumbo. Those are storytellers. They take a little bit of opinion, a little bit of fact, and they sit there and they just make it work. So respect to Travis Kelce, because you know, he's killing it. Even though he feels like, yo, I'm working a lot harder than I am in football, at least this work is paying off and you're getting where you gotta go.